Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the continuing discussion on our topic price in marketing. In our previous class, we had referred to the meaning of price. Also, we tried to understand the objectives of pricing. What did we understand as the definition of pricing? Price is the amount which is charged by the seller to his customers. Or in other words, you can consider it as the economic value of goods and services. We also had a discussion on the objectives of pricing. Some of the objectives which we discussed yesterday were pricing helps to maximize profits, pricing helps to gain market share, pricing helps to beat competition, pricing helps you to generate return on investment, pricing also helps you to create goodwill for your company. Having understood this, now let us move on to the importance of pricing. Why is pricing considered to be important? Of course, it is also just one of the four elements of your marketing mix. There are other elements in your marketing mix like product, promotion, distribution. We understand that product is the most important element of the marketing mix. Pricing comes next. Why is pricing considered important? If you look at all the four elements of the marketing mix, we can understand that it is pricing the only element which brings in revenue. You take products, these bring in costs. You take promotion, these involve costs. You take distribution, it entails costs. Which is the only element which brings in revenue? It is pricing. This is the reason why pricing is considered to be one of the most important elements in the marketing mix. Now, let us study this in detail. If you look, we need to understand the importance of pricing from three different perspectives. One will be from the point of view of the producer. Second, we will try to understand the importance of pricing from the point of view of the consumer or the customer. Point three, we will try to understand the importance of pricing from the society's point of view or from a societal point of view. Let us go through all these 3 points in some detail. Now let us understand how price is important from a producer's point of view. We'll see. Producer. If you look at a producer has to recover his costs which have been involved in the production or in bringing out the product. There are several expenses involved in bringing out a product. This can be manufacturing expenses, they can be administrative expenses, this can be selling expenses, this can be financial expenses. A producer has to recover all these expenses. No one does business for charity. One has to recover every element of cost. Apart from this, one also has to earn reasonable profit. Your price is the only method which will help you to recover these costs. So from a producer's point of view, price is the mechanism which will help him to recover his costs. So the first point will be recovery of costs. Now let us move to point 2. Point 2 will say that it is price which enables a producer to withstand competition. We'll understand what you mean by withstand competition. Now, there is no business without competition. In the initial days, you may have some advantage. But sooner or later, competition will come in. How do you manage competition? There are several ways. But price remains one of the main weapons in which you can manage competition. You have 4 or 5 different competitors coming in. They have certain advantages over you. You have your price as one singular weapon which you can use. You can increase the price, which means you stand at a disadvantage vis-a-vis your competition. You can reduce the price, you gain some advantage vis-a-vis your competition. Everything else remaining the same. You play with prices, you can manage your competition well. Increase in prices results in benefiting your competition. Decrease in prices results in you getting the benefit over your competition. Now let us move to point 3. Point 3 refers to stimulate or regulate demand. This is closely connected to your point 2. Suppose you have a situation where you have enormous quantities of production lined up. You have tremendous amount of unsold stock lying in your godowns. You have to stimulate demand for your product. You have to ensure that products move out of your godown. What is one way you can do it? The easiest way, one easy way you can do it is to reduce your price. Bring down the price. You will find that your unsold inventory starts moving. Now you take the opposite of this. You take a situation where you have a faulty production line. You have some labor issues. Your production is not on your regular pattern. You find that you are unable to produce as much as you want. In such a situation, you have to regulate your demand. What is one way you can do it? Slightly increase the price. You will find that offtake of your product comes down. So it is price which helps you to stimulate as well as regulate demand. Point 4, pricing helps comparison with similar products. Very often in market research, one has to study products of your competitors. Now, is it required to study every product of your competitor? No. If you have a view on pricing, you will be able to understand what are your similarly priced competitors doing. You need not refer to every single product in your competitor's product mix. Find out which products in his product mix closely match your product's price. Why are they selling more or why are they selling less? Why do customers prefer this? Why do not customers prefer this? You should not waste your time and energy on studying every product your competitor has. Study only those products which your competitors are priced similar to your own product. So from a seller's point of view or from a producer's point of view, you have 4 points which make pricing important. First is it helps a producer to recover costs. Second is it helps him to withstand competition. Third is it helps to stimulate or regulate demand. And the last is it helps you to compare similarly priced products. Now let us move to the next point. This will be from a consumer's point of view. As we all know, consumer is king. There is no business where you cannot afford to ignore a consumer. How does pricing become important from a consumer's point of view? Let us try to understand. Here, your first point will be pricing helps a consumer to satisfy his wants, demands. Or you can say price generates satisfaction. How does price generate satisfaction? Let us take a small example. You have a chest of 10 lakh rupees. You have a savings of 10 lakh rupees. You decide to buy a vehicle with it. Assume you buy a Tata Nexon, big one, the recently hybrid one. You buy it for say 10 lakh rupees. Assume the price is to be 10 lakh rupees. Now you buy your Tata Nexon for 10 lakh rupees. You bring it home, you drive it, you go on long drives with your family, you go to your neighboring shops, you go to a pilgrimage center, you go with your family wherever you want. It gives you immense satisfaction. What has enabled you to get the satisfaction? Your vehicle has enabled you to get the satisfaction. Why were you able to purchase this vehicle? Because you paid some money for it. 10 lakh rupees you have paid to the producer for it. By the very act of paying 10 lakh rupees to your producer and getting a vehicle in return, you have obtained satisfaction. So from a customer's point of view, it is the price which has enabled him to obtain satisfaction. He has parted with his money and he has obtained satisfaction. Let us go to point 2. May indicate quality. Let's be slightly careful here. Pricing may indicate quality, or we will make it a higher price indicates better quality. Is it always the same? Need not be. But as a rule of thumb, higher your price, better your quality will be. Why? Because certain input costs will require your prices to be maintained at a higher level. When your input costs are going up, it means that you are using better quality raw materials or resources. Naturally, when your product involves better quality raw materials or inputs or resources, it means that you will be able to sell only at a higher price. Let us understand this with the help of an example. You have mobile phones retailing on Amazon, Flipkart, wherever. You have mobile phones which are available for 10,000 rupees. You also have mobile phones which are available for as low as 4,000 rupees. How will you rate both these mobiles? Which one in your common logic will have a better quality? Definitely you will say it is the 10,000 rupee mobile which will have better quality. Why? Because you closely associate a higher price with higher specifications and higher quality. So from a consumer's point of view, an increase in price may indicate quality, and increase in price will help him to have a better judgment of the product's quality. Now let us come to point 3. Allocation of resources. Now this is a point which requires fair bit of explanation. Are resources infinite? Never. Every resource is finite. From a consumer's point of view, pricing helps him to understand on which expenses, on which elements should he spend money. Does he need to buy something immediately? Does he need to postpone? Does he need to pay in installments? Does he need to borrow and get the product? All these decisions are based on what the price of the product he wishes to buy is. Let us again understand this with the help of an example. I am a salaried person. I have a salary of 50,000 rupees. I spend about 40,000 rupees on my regular monthly expenses. Rent, children's education, hospital, school fees, everything else, EMIs. I am left with 10,000 rupees at the end of every month, or maybe at the end of this month. How do I spend this 10,000 rupees? Do I buy a new mobile phone? Do I go on a vacation? Do I buy a pair of new sunglasses? Or do I spend money on my son's long-standing desire for a new bicycle? All these things have to be evaluated. I draw up a checklist. Vacation costs 25,000 rupees, ruled out. Mobile phone costs 12,000 rupees, the brand which I am looking for, ruled out. The bicycle looks good, 9,000 rupees, so I decided to buy it. How did I come to a decision that I will buy a bicycle? I looked at the price of various elements. Some are charged at 20,000 rupees, my vacation 25,000 rupees. My new mobile phone costs 15,000 rupees. My son's bicycle costs only 8,000 rupees. I made my judgment on the basis of price. For the various competing elements, from the various elements which are competing for my budget, I chose my option depending upon the price. So your price helps from a customer's point of view to allocate resources properly. So this is from a consumer point of view. I will summarize this once again. From a consumer's point of view, price helps him to obtain satisfaction. Point 2, price may indicate quality. Point 3, price helps in allocation of resources. Having understood how price benefits the producer as well as the customer, we now move on to how price is important from a societal point of view. From the point of view of the society, how is price important? Let us understand how price will be important from a social point of view. The first point will be price helps to sustain economic activity. Now, what do you mean by sustaining economic activity? When you buy a product, paying a certain amount, paying a certain price, you start the cycle of a whole lot of economic activities. When you pay a price, the price you pay is used by the manufacturer of the product to pay his employees' wages. He uses it to buy further resources. He uses it to buy material or raw materials for his expansion programs. He uses it to pay his utility bills for his factory. Now this in turn generates further economic activity. What is the laborer who gets this price, a portion of the price which you have paid for the product from his factory? What does the laborer do with his wage? He starts another cycle of economic activity. Now your manufacturer he gets a portion of the price you pay. He uses it to expand his factory. Now, expansion of a factory is another economic activity. It involves allocation, purchase of resources, which again will involve purchasing, spending of money. So a whole lot of economic activity centers around your singular act of buying and paying a price for a product. Lot of economic activities are hinged upon the singular act of buying a product and paying a price for it. This is what you mean by sustaining economic activity. Pricing sustains economic activity. Point 2 is from a government's point of view or from a welfare state's point of view. We should understand price helps to allocate resources. This is almost the same as the previous point, allocation of resources from a consumer's or customer's point of view. From a social point of view, you also find that pricing helps to allocate resources. How does this happen? Now you understand every product when it is sold will involve an element of taxes onto it. There will be taxes. Nothing in life is certain except death and taxes. Now that having understood this, where does your tax go? Your tax goes to the government. The government sits on a whole lot of money which it has generated by way of tax. Every time as a consumer, when you pay the producer, there is a tax onto it which goes to the government. Now the government which is sitting on this whole lot of tax needs to allocate this to various areas. When the government needs to allocate, the government needs to have a fair sense of the price of various things it has to provide to the society. Healthcare, insurance, education, defense purchases, whole lot of activities needs the government's funding. How will the government allocate its resources onto various sectors which are demanding for its funds? It again is on the basis of price. Now the government needs to intervene urgently in the area of healthcare. Should the government spend more on healthcare now? Yes. In the background of the epidemic which is sweeping across the nation, we should understand that the government has to spend more on healthcare. Now, will the government spend the entire amount? Or does the government expect the citizens to pick up the entire tab of treating an epidemic? No. The government has to spend. The government cannot expect its citizen to pay from its pocket, especially in cases of such a big outbreak of disease. Now, the government needs to allocate money for medicines, money for healthcare, money for insurance payments. The government needs to pay a disproportionately high amount to healthcare. The government needs to understand how much do medicines cost, how much does basic healthcare cost, how much does an insurance policy cost. The government will understand the price of these elements and the government will decide accordingly. Now the government needs to buy military wear. The government needs to buy military equipment. As a country, we need to protect our borders. We need the latest equipment. We need to defend our country. How much does a helicopter cost? How much does a warship cost? How much does the latest guns cost? How much does the latest protective equipment cost? All these elements the government will have to factor in. The government will have to understand the price and then allocate resources accordingly. Now the government needs to build up infrastructure, building ports, building roads, building telecom towers, generating employment. For this, the government needs to allocate money. What will be the cost of constructing a port? Cement, iron and steel, labor. All these things have a cost attached to it. How much does the government need to allocate to each element? The government needs to understand the price of each element and then the government will do the allocation. So this is what you mean by allocation of resources. From a societal point of view, pricing has two important points. One is it helps to sustain economic activity. Second is it helps to allocate resources. This is in short how we understand the importance of pricing. I will summarize. The importance of pricing needs to be understood from three different perspectives. From a producer's perspective, from a consumer's perspective, thirdly from a society's perspective. From a producer's perspective, pricing helps to recover costs. Pricing helps to withstand competition. Pricing helps to stimulate or regulate demand. Pricing helps to compare your products with similar products. This is about pricing's importance to producers. Moving on to consumers. Pricing helps the consumer to obtain satisfaction. Pricing may indicate quality. It helps the customer to have a better judgment. Third, pricing helps the customer to allocate his finite resources. Coming to societal point of view, there are two important points. One is pricing helps to sustain economic activity. Second is pricing helps the government to allocate resources in various sectors. This is all about the importance of pricing. Thank you.